Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MakerDAO Scientific Governance and Risk Meeting at number 159, taking place on Thursday, September 16th, 1700 UTC. My name is Long for Wisdom. I'm one of the governance facilitators at MakerDAO. Great to have you all here with us today. Yeah, as usual, we've got a little bit of an agenda to get through. Like last week, we're sort of continuing with our slightly adjusted format. So we're going to sort of aim to get some more discussions in alongside the sort of some sort of brief updates at the beginning, hopefully not too long. And then finally, I think at the end of the call, we've got a presentation from the Ducks Incubating core units, who are going to present some changes to the voting portal. So yeah, with that, let's move on to updating on votes. So polls last week. We had 3 that passed. There's still some in progress, but we'll get to this in a second. So onboarding GUNI v3 DAI USDC 1A passed. That is the Uniswap v3 pool created by Gelato. The offboarding KNCA vault poll passed. So we're going to be, assuming it passes in the exec, we'll be reducing the getting rid of the liquidation penalty, increasing the liquidation ratio over a period of 60 days, I think we went with. DCIM parameter changes for PSMs, that also passed. That was mostly enabling the debt ceiling instant access module for the PAX PSM, or what is it called now, USDP PSM, and slightly adjusting the USDC PSM parameters as well. We still have 2 green light polls active till next Monday, and there's also a bunch of MIPs polls active, but we'll get to that in our MIPs update in a moment. All right, moving on. Executive proposals. So we have an executive proposal tomorrow. It will include 3 changes that I just went through from polls. So look for that tomorrow. It'll be probably the usual time, sometime after 1600 UTC. All right, so with that, I think we can pass it off to Pablo for the MIPS update.
Okay, cool. So welcome to a new weekly MIPS update. We are currently on the 2nd week of September's governance cycle, and ratification polls went live on Monday 13th. Namely, next slide, please. We had a MIP 58, Real World Asset Foundations, 4 core units. I don't know if it's worth it to repeat them, but strategic happiness, StarNet engineering, development and user experience, and collateral engineering services, and 3 budgets, 1 for development, 1 for ACS, and the MKR compensation plan for risk. And we'll take a look at the votes so far. If David, yes, thank you. So we have a MIP 58, which is Real World Assets Foundation, which has an interesting number of abstentions for some reason, but it's on the green. All the core units are on the green too, with collateral engineering services apparently being the most contentious of the bunch. And yes, budgets are too, all safely on the green. There's not much to report really. We're going to move to stuff in RFC. And there's been no new additions here. We had 3 MIPs, the most recent of which is MIP 59, 4 core units, the most recent of which are data insights and deco fixed rates, with the others having been in RFC for a while now, and 2 budgets, 1 for content production and 1 for growth. Can we? Yeah, 1 more, please. Yes, and finally, I wrote a primer for prospective proposal authors, something of a guide as to how to go about the whole process in a pretty succinct and hopefully clear way. You can access it from the MIPS portal, and I would appreciate the feedback. So if you have time, please give it a read and let me know if you think it's useful. And that's pretty much all from me. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Pablo. Very much appreciated. All right, I believe we have Artem for the forum updates.
Yep, here I am. Let me just post the link. All right. Welcome to the Forum at a Glance, a weekly review of what's happened on the forums for the week of September 10th to September 16th. Let's begin with this week's top announcements. So on August 8th of 2021, Token Float team contacted Duck's team concerning a discrepancy between the MCD voting tracker tool and the governance portal. The Duck's team took a look and uncovered multiple problems in the governance polling database, which is detailed in their post. These issues have now been fixed, and the Ducks team presents both short-term and long-term mitigation steps in their post. Also, as part of their short-term mitigation, the Ducks team released an updated version of the governance portal with new features, including poll vote history, delegate statistics, and visualizing poll vote breakdown. Next up, the DAI Foundation is now able to manage ownership of intangible assets belonging to the Maker protocol. Long for Wisdom and Seth from Content Production thereby announced that they have been working on a MIP called Intangible Asset Assignment, which is now on the forum. The goal of this MIP is for governance to agree on a process to set who has management permissions for content and platforms that are official of the DAO. Finally, we have Primož from Risk Core Unit, who proposed a new set of auction parameters for the largest vault types, ETH-A, ETH-B, and WBTC-A. This decision stems from the previous governance and risk call discussion. These changes will be pushed to be included in an on-chain poll next week. Moving on to the top 3 discussions. As the DAO scales, the problem of prioritization continues to become more complex for core units and other teams. Long provides a proposal to help streamline the process of prioritization. His post includes potential implementation of voting ideas, such as multi-winner instant runoff in the short term and conviction voting in the long term, among others detailed in his post. Next, after informally consulting with legal experts within and external to the DAO, Chris Cameron identified that there are workarounds to the DAO not being an entity, and in response, he asks the community on whether we would like to pursue a layer of legal representation for the whole DAO. This poll closes soon, so give it a vote. We also have Bowtied Iguana, who is writing an article about MakerDAO and flagging assets held with Circle as a potential risk. With dissolution in full effect, he asks the community what the legal situation would be if a dispute were to arise between MakerDAO and Circle. And on to signals, we have 2 active signal requests following discussion to offboard USDT token from the Maker protocol. Monet Supply signals to ask the community whether we support the parameter changes outlined in a signal request on the forums. And this signal ends tomorrow, so give it a vote. And next up, our second and last signal. Should be signaling to adjust the surplus buffer to help prevent it from filling up in the case of liquidation penalties collected during a significant market drop. And that's it. For more information, check out the forum at a glance on the forums, which includes a 3-point summary, ongoing initiatives, help wanted, and also some more announcements and discussions. Thank you. That's it.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Awesome. Cool. Okay, so that brings us to our second phase of the meeting, I guess. Going to have some sort of more themed sort of updates / discussions on a couple of topics. So I think we're going to start with Rocket.Chat migration. As hopefully most of you know, the foundation is no longer able to maintain the Rocket.Chat instance that we're currently using for chat. So we've kind of been working on yeah, like sort of figuring out migration options. Seth, do you want to sort of give a brief sort of update of where we're at with that, I guess?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Long. Just to let everybody know, nothing is, as far as I'm aware, nothing's been set in stone yet. So going to describe the plan that we've been talking about. So if you have any concerns, please feel free to raise them now. So the general sentiment seems to be in favor of Discord. We have other options that have been discussed include Keybase, creating a new Rocket.Chat, you know, even using Slack. Or there's some other tools like Matrix and Workstorm. Yeah, because most people already have Discord handles and are used to interacting with Discord. That seems to be the general favorite at the moment, but there have been some valid concerns raised about difficulties around moderating Discord servers and preserving the culture that's been preserving the culture that we've cultivated in Rocket.Chat so far. So the plan right now is that TechOps is going to handle the setup and implementation, administration and moderation will be somewhat decentralized as much as possible. Discord lets admins create backups of Discord servers. So as long as we have at least a few admins who are able to maintain those backups, I think that addresses any concerns around decentralization. So yeah, we're still getting a plan together for which channels we think are the most appropriate. Covered most of the obvious ones you would guess so far, you know, general, random, channels specifically for core units, both public and private. But if anyone has private chat channels that they would like to see, please feel free to reach out to Long or myself so we can get those on the list. Yeah, as far as the transition goes, the plan is for, I believe GovComms has volunteered to help collect Discord handles. You know, we like to try and get as many people invited so that we can make the transition as smooth as possible. And we're also looking into creating at Frank's suggestion, we're looking into creating some NFTs to distribute to everyone who's coming over, who has participated in Rocket.Chat previously. So we're talking with Pope about how to distribute those. So that's all the details I have at the moment. Yeah, if there's any comments, questions, concerns, anybody really strongly opposed to using Discord, yeah, feel free to raise those concerns now.
I think we sort of love to hear from people generally, but like, yeah, especially if you are against Discord, that'd be interesting to kind of hear, because like, I think almost everyone we've spoken to thus far has been pro Discord, which is great. And I think we can sort of lead in that direction unless we see, I don't know, some massive problems show up or anything. So
something to consider is that we probably need to do a lot of research on how to deal with bots and scammers, and I'm not sure if there's any special like either software or techniques, but that has been raised by others in the past.
yeah, it's something we're sort of aware of. I think like I started using Discord like for crypto stuff like a few months ago now, right? So I've been hanging around all the other channels and stuff. There seem to be sort of fairly standard mechanisms to sort of prevent access to channels, like gated with captures and stuff, right? So I'm hoping that'll keep most of the bots out of like the sort of channels themselves. Anyone who's kind of spent any time in Discord channels themselves probably realizes the most annoying part is just that users kind of just DM you if you're in like the channels to try and get you to do stuff. Kind of simple way to deal with that is just like a user option to sort of disable like kind of direct messages from people that aren't on your friends list, I think, from certain servers. But yeah, we'll kind of keep an eye and sort of, yeah, keep track of if there's any issues going forwards, I think.
Yeah, that is a good point. Thank you for bringing that up, Lon. I just dropped the link to post from the forum we put up about a week ago. We have talked about a few tactics we can implement to help deal with that. And if anybody else has other ideas, please feel free to comment or reach out to someone, to Long or myself.
So Mario in the chat asked if we'd considered other options like Matrix. Yeah, Matrix is on the list of things we've considered. I actually really like Matrix as like a sort of backup platform. I think a lot of people like the idea of Discord as like the primary platform because lots of other people are there. It's sort of generally accessible to everyone, and people are familiar with it. But I kind of like Matrix because it's sort of much more decentralized than Discord, right? Doesn't have a centralized operator. And it'd be kind of good to have like a backup, which is sort of more decentralized, I guess, just in case something happens with Discord.
And I assume it's like there's a programmable API for Discord. I've only never used it as a user, but you guys are bringing up concerns about bots. I assume that means that we'll be able to implement things like chat ops type stuff, you know, where we get alerts and whatnot from either, let's say, the forums or from stuff we check on chain or whatever, and maybe even can take actions from the chat channels.
Yeah, there's definitely like a whole bunch of like bots that people have built, right? Discord's been around for ages and it has like a huge community. So there's kind of ready to go bots. Yeah, there's like webhooks and stuff. Not sure if anyone's built any like blockchain compatible bots. So that would be kind of interesting. I imagine someone has, but who knows?
You just run a command and have it execute the governance spell.
Anyone else want to sort of share any sort of, I guess, comments or questions or
I have one like more about the time frame or next steps. When do you think we will have the Discord channel enabled, and what are the plans to integrate? Like, because I guess other core units have their own server, so are we planning to integrate those servers with the MakerDAO one, or it will be independent? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with timeline stuff, right? So yeah, the plan is to get the so for reference, I'm kind of working on the channel and permissions and like roles set up. Seth and David are sort of working on the user side, right? So we're kind of hoping to have everything like 2 tech ops, I think by the end of the month. Yeah, 2 weeks we said, maybe a week before the end of the month. Then that's going to kind of give tech ops a few weeks to kind of actually set it up and get it going. And the hope is we can start like migrating people like 2 weeks before Rocket.Chat shuts down, so we can have a nice buffer in case anything goes wrong or we have issues, right? I'm also going to make a forum post which actually kind of details the sort of channel and role setup that we have in mind for comment as well before we actually do it. In terms of the core unit question, so I think one of the things we're going to do is kind of provide channels for all the core units in the main Discord. Like there'll be like public versions, like private versions. I think the kind of public one will kind of, so there's some questions about whether we could like bridge the public ones to other Discords in the case that the core units have their own, which I think is doable. But also it'll just kind of be up to the core units, right, whether they want to use the one in the main channel or whether they want to use the ones in their own channel, right? So the idea is just kind of let people do what they want. Yeah.
I know we were exploring some of the like role attributes and permissions and facing a few of the challenges there. I don't know if we wanted to discuss some of that or if it's worth bringing up, but I'm curious if we have thoughts for like how we're be organizing kind of permissions within the channels. That was actually going to be real quick. That was actually going to be my question because I saw that the Pleaser DAO, that dog NFT, whatever token, DOG, thanks to Saint Bourbon, by the way. You could get verified by connecting your MetaMask wallet to the Discord channel. And all you have to prove is that you own dog tokens. And somehow your your username changes colors. But I can't seem to find the instructions on it. But yeah, so that is something that I guess we might be able to do.
Yeah, that is an option. I think I think we want to be a little bit careful as to what like our sort of goals are when we do that, right? Because if it's just to prevent spam, I think there's kind of better ways to do this. Like I think we're already planning to have sort of like a role for like people who are sort of you know, sort of been in the DAO for sort of a few, you know, for sort of some time, right? Like people that everyone kind of knows. So there'll be sort of like a DAO member role, which contains like, you know, all the delegates, all the core unit members, all the sort of regular, you know, sort of familiar faces, right? We could also, or potentially have that like based on MKR, but I think using the sort of token setup as like an anti-spam thing is maybe bad, because like you're gonna have some subset of people that just don't want to link like MetaMask to Discord in any way, right? You're gonna have, and then there's also like some set of people who are not going to own MKR, but also have like valid things to contribute to the conversation or to the forum, right? So I think like sort of having it as like an anti-spam measure is maybe bad. If you just kind of want it in terms of like, hey, this person owns some MKR, maybe. Yeah, so I don't know. It's definitely a possibility. I'm sort of not quite convinced if it's like sort of what it sort of brings us right at this stage, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like.
Sorry,
ahead,
I was gonna second that there are definitely stakeholders in our ecosystem that might not be MKR holders that we should absolutely let in our communication channels. So yeah, I don't agree with the whole MKR chat channel. Like for everything, maybe like a dedicated chat channel, like Long was saying, but again, I'm kind of not sure what like the benefit is.
Yeah, if it was kind of displayed the way that we have the badges in the forum right now, I think it would be cool. Just kind of a extra, hey, this person's verified. I think Long can speak a little better to the concerns around moderation at this point, but I think the main challenge is that we want to be able to assign people to be moderators to specific channels rather than just moderating the entire Discord, and we're having to figure out a system to Discord only lets you assign mod permissions by roles. So yeah, there's a little bit of weirdness about how to create a hierarchy that lets people moderate specific channels, but not others. So minor challenge, but something I think we can figure out.
Has anyone put any thought into the jurisdiction where the main server would be hosted, subpoena compliance, that sort of thing, log retention?
I think that's the kind of the thing with Discord. You don't manage any of the server stuff yourself, right? It's just hosted. Like Discord, the company hosts all the servers. This is one of the reasons I kind of want the whole decentralized backup thing.
Yeah, but to your point, we have discussed kind of the potential liability that admins might be taking on, and if there's a way to, I believe Long found there is a way to designate like the server owner. We are looking into figuring out how to, if we can make the, figure out a way to delegate that to the DAI Foundation. That would certainly be preferable.
Yeah, I think we just need a DAI Foundation owned account to actually create the server and like assign the first tech ops guy as an admin, and then we should be fine. But yeah, we'll kind of see. Anyone else have any sort of comments or questions at this stage? I saw a few things in the sidebar that maybe came up. If anybody wants to read those out, feel free. Okay, maybe we're done on Discord and migration. As I said, I'm gonna post a forum post with sort of breakdown of the proposed like channel setup and role setup for comments. Hopefully by the end of next week, the latest. So yeah, there'll be sort of more to come soon. All right, so let's maybe move us on to our next one. Yeah, so we're going to have protocol engineering in the form of Bartek. Give us an update on L2 and our L2 plans, I think. Bartek, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, everybody. So no presentation, just a bit of a chat, I guess, and I'm keen to get some questions from you guys. So basically, the current work on L2 is making sure that we get DAI on Arbitrum as soon as possible. I mean, you guys have seen the post in the forum. Arbitrum has launched open up to the public like 2 weeks ago or so, and last week we saw just some farms opening up, and it attracted an avalanche of capital flowing in, like 2.5 billion the last I checked, and obviously it just points to our thesis that sooner than we think we might end up in a world where there's a lot of collateral actually flowing into these rollups, right? I mean, people just want to do stuff on the rollups, and they want to live on the rollups because they are cheaper and they are as safe as Ethereum. So with that being said, we've been trying to work with our Arbitrum team to bridge DAI, and we want to do it in such a way that in the future it will be possible to actually mint DAI directly on L2, and that minted DAI will be fungible with the DAI that we bridge. And that actually requires a custom approach, a custom gateway. So to do that, we spent a lot of time with the teams, first with Optimism and now with Arbitrum, to A, convince them that this is the right approach, and B, to actually implement it. And it does take some time. However, I'm happy to say that hopefully we'll be seeing DAI on Arbitrum next week. We are really, really close to have that work done, just the final phases of testing. So that's Arbitrum. Then the next logical step for us for both optimistic rollups, meaning Optimism and Arbitrum, is to actually start implementing the fast withdrawal bridge. This is a little bit more complicated, and we are actually doing this together with the Oracle core unit, because you do need Oracle support to actually make it happen. But once that's done, we actually will have the only, in our opinion, fast withdrawal bridge that is not liquidity constrained. So if you're interested in how it actually works, I published with Derek the forum post on this a few months ago. This is the exact design that will be used. And given that there's so much capital right now in Arbitrum and possibly very soon in Optimism, we think that it will actually allow the protocol to provide some liquidity for all these liquidity flows. So we're like super excited about that. And the third thing that we're doing right now is to sort of help the discussion around the Starknet support, which is another rollup that has not launched yet, but it's much more complicated. It's a ZK rollup, and when it launches by the end of the year, we want to make sure that we are kind of ready, especially from the engineering point of view. We need to be able to understand this. We need to be able to sort of do more or less the same things that we're doing for the optimistic rollups. And to this end, there's a small core unit which will focus exactly on this, with a very small mandate right now to actually research and implement the very same bridge that we've done for optimistic rollups, but on a ZK rollup. So these are the major work streams. We have been also working with teams doing bridges. Like HOP protocol, we want to explore whether HOP protocol can actually use DAI liquidity, because right now this is one of the only ways to move your funds quickly from rollup to rollup. You can also use Connext, you can also use Seller Bridge, but all of them require liquidity, right? And every single protocol will be liquidity constrained, and we can try to provide this liquidity as a kind of a short-term loan, if you like. So so these are probably the main four like work streams that are keeping us busy. Any questions from anybody?
I have a question. So there's like all of these, L2s coming about, and I know that obviously not all of them will gain like their fair share or expected market share. I'm curious how you weigh or like decide between like the priorities of the different L2s that you are working on, and also for things that are not in existence yet, like Starkware. Kind of what other information gives you guys like enough conviction to really like go after such a huge like undertaking to try to build with Starka, and yeah, so I guess I'll leave my question like that.
No, this is a very good question, and it's a bit of a I guess a judgment on which team and which rollup will be potentially the most successful in the future, right? And you want to sort of place your bets wisely, obviously. But for us, I think the main criterion is sort of risk factor. I mean, if you've noticed my tweets, and we are kind of helping L2Beat team to also, sort of educate the whole community about the risk. We want to make sure that the DAI that you actually put on a rollup and take it back is as safe as on L1. That's why we're like excited about the rollups with our bridge, and for other chains like Polygon and Avalanche, whatnot. We think that the current approach of the growth team and other teams, which is to simply use their bridges and wrap DAI into a wrap token, it's pretty workable, right? We might change our approach in the future, but that should work fine, hopefully. So we kind of think that, with the security of the rollup and also the quality of the team comes, I guess, the conviction that this rollup is safe and people can actually do stuff on it safely, right? And this is literally what we saw on Arbitrum. I don't think that less accomplished team could have pulled it off. So we kind of follow, the quality of the rollup, the reputation of the team, but obviously also liquidity, right? At the end of the day, we have to sort of try to chase liquidity, and then this is the major factor. So two combined, I think, gives us a good picture. And again, this is why we kind of helped create L2Beat to track both liquidity and risk. And this is why we kind of think that Arbitrum and Optimism are probably the leaders right now, in the optimistic rollups, and with ZK rollups, that's Starkware, that's Matter Labs with ZK Sync, and Aztec, right? I mean, these three are like top-notch teams that, we think are leading the pack.
Thank you for that great answer.
Can I ask a question? So I hear you talking about L2s, and I know people are focusing on this for a lot of different reasons, but I don't necessarily see sidechains going away. In fact, they can be a complement to the entire ecosystem. We can debate this, security, etc. The one thing I was wondering, I don't think this technology, the Starknet, really applies, but I kind of want to know if there was some way that we could be the DAI bridge from L1 into the sidechains, to provide the base level DAI security, and then cross bridge between the side chains, right? I mean, literally just make DAI ubiquitous, in and through. And in some ways we could kind of capitalize on the side chain aspect. It might not be that important, but I just wonder if this is applicable there at all.
Yeah, it's a great point, and this is an important consideration for us. And again, I mean, side chains are not being equal, and the main problem that we've got right now is that the side chains kind of break the whole, let's say, the security framework of DAI, which is minted on Ethereum, right? If we start to think about minting DAI on other chains, and then obviously that DAI has a very different risk, and it may entirely be a different token. in our opinion, being able to mint DAI on the sidechain is like literally saying that this DAI is more risky than the DAI minted on Ethereum, because it apart from the usual risks like the collateral and whatnot, right? It will also have some other additional risks related to how the sidechain is secured and how this bridge is actually secured. So having said that, we think that it is possible to actually mint DAI on side chains. However, first we need to be able to develop what we call the sharded vault engine, if you like, right? The much more complex design of the core system that will allow us to somehow contain this risk, to create like a local debt ceiling for a sidechain, if you like, right? And it is possible. However, right now, I think we are not ready yet, and that's why we kind of assume that for sidechains, we accepted that that people will be wrapping DAI, which is minted on L1, right? So right now our approach is to mint DAI on L1 and just wrap it and move it to sidechain to actually use it. But if you wanted to mint DAI on L2 and still want the DAI to be the same, meaning fungible, right? Then suddenly you have to sort of manage the risk of the DAI minted on the sidechain to be less secure. So I'm not sure if this is really answering your question, but we're definitely thinking about it, and this is part of the roadmap as well. And if you look at the multi-chain strategy, I kind of talked about it, but it's hard, right? If you want to make this DAI fungible with the DAI on L1, it's hard. Just think about the simple use case. You go to Polygon or wherever, you mint hundreds of millions of DAI there, and you want to sort of bridge it back to L1, right? Where does this DAI on L1 come from? That's the main question, right? The one that you sort of have to mint so that you can actually bridge it to L1. So you need to be able to actually solve this problem first. But that's the mental model that we've got, right? Just think about going to a sidechain, minting a ton of DAI there, and immediately try to bridge it to L1. So that's that kind of a scenario that we have in mind when we think that the DAI should be fungible, right? Because otherwise it's just a different DAI. There's DAI on Ethereum, there's DAI on Solana or whatnot, right? I mean, it's a different DAI, it's a different token.
I think there's an element of sort of prioritization as well, right? Like we're sort of, well, correct me if I remember, but I guess you're kind of prioritizing the L2s versus the sidechains.
Yeah, right now, because they're like, well, first of all, they're more secure, and secondly, we don't have to think about the bridge because it's completely permissionless for the rollups, and also we're prioritizing the fast withdrawals, which can be done only on rollups, the way that we're trying to do it. And this sharded vault engine, I mean, I guess it depends on the community. How do we actually prioritize that, right? I mean, it's a complex design, it's a lot of work, and maybe there are some other priorities that we have to take care of first.
Any other questions for Bartek?
Yeah, Bartek, we at the Dux team have been thinking about ways to improve the governance experience. And one thought is like reducing the cost of voting and participation in governance. Are there any thoughts on how we could leverage L2s for governance at all?
I mean, we haven't been thinking about it. Right now, our primary concern is to make DAI available, but I see absolutely no reason why we shouldn't sort of think about it. If you've got the EVM compliant L2, I think it would be pretty easy to sort of have a voting system there. It's going to be much cheaper for sure, and both optimistic and ZK rollups can be used to this end. So definitely you should give it a try, and if you need any guidance from us, we're ready to help. I think these rollups right now, both Arbitrum and Optimism are ready to actually do it, and soon enough ZK rollups as well. And it's very easy, actually. Shouldn't be hard, right?
Yeah, I'll add to this that in the foundation, maybe what, a year ago or maybe a little bit longer, we had a number of sessions with the Starkware team on how to like actually push voting off to Starkware, because voting was getting expensive and we thought it would help participation. So there is like a design on how to do that. But part of that design, I think, was leaning on DSS.gov, us basically having the newer governance module in order for that to work. Because it kind of became like a use case of delegation, but maybe we can like shoehorn the delegation we have together with the old design and it might work.
Cool. Yeah, I imagine there'd be some challenges, but that sounds really interesting.
Maybe it's kind of a obvious but generic question. Do we have a preference on the desire to mint DAI on L2 or vote on L2 first? Is our goal to have inclusion of DAI, which I would just say we could do with bridges, or maybe I'm missing part of it, but to me, the voting aspect may have just as much value on L2 and having inclusion of other MKR holders as the ability to mint DAI on an L2.
Well, so I have maybe a light opinion here. I think that the version of delegation that we pushed mitigates some of the voting concerns that we were having with regards to like participation in gas. So we bought ourselves a little bit of time such that I think it would be smarter for us to try and recapture the users. Let's say, that could mint like a 20 DAI vault or 100 DAI vault by actually moving over to L2s and being able to like capture like normal users again, because the dust limits there would be so much lower. In my opinion, I think it's a higher priority for us to do the sharded vault engine or to actually move MCD and deploy it to like, Optimism and Arbitrum instead of trying to solve this like one voting issue, just because I think we already have a mitigation. Happy for people to contend with that if anybody wants to take issue with it.
Hey, Bartek, is the recent issue with the outage on Arbitrum, and I think it was because there was a large burst of transactions in a short period of time. And is that something that we can expect? And also in Optimism, and how long before? And I think it has, and I don't understand it, right? Something to do with the sequencer. So is that something that's going to improve over time, or do you expect this to just be a thing where there's just got to be more development to happen before we can get 400,000 transactions per second?
I take this 400 transactions per second from the Solana crash, right? And that was just the amount of transactions in the mempool, definitely not processed by Solana, but so there's a bit of a misunderstanding here. But actually what happened for Arbitrum, I mean, I don't know if you saw my tweet today about this, I don't think it was as serious as people think, because it was just a sequencer that actually was kind of overwhelmed, but the rollup itself was chugging along, just fine. So if you just wanted to, grab the better understanding, just, check this tweet. But the point is that all the contracts on L1 and all the funds were safe. And interestingly enough, people, if they really, really were desperate, they could push their transactions through because there's like a backdoor on L1 contract that actually allows them to do so. And this backdoor was created for the very reason that, the sequencer may censor some users, or it may actually go down for, some time, like it happened yesterday, right? But the good thing is that, but the rollup didn't stop. And that's the beauty of the design, right? The sequencer is just to help with the UX and is to make sure that everything is like faster for the end user. However, the rollup security is actually implemented inside the Ethereum smart contracts, right? So I don't think it's actually, I mean, right now, obviously, it's upgradable and whatnot, it's got the training wheels, but if this is like not beta, but the proper release, you know, I think it's a very good design in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, you can always overlap sequencer is a centralized service. So they have to harden it. They have to make it stronger. And I think with time, they will be able to do so. This is like, because it's centralized, interestingly enough, you know, they can actually make it much, much harder, right? But the point is that even though sequencer is centralized, the funds are safe and they cannot do anything to steal them or whatever, right? So that's the whole idea about rollups. So yeah, I can't tell you if, you know, such outage, it won't happen again. It's possible and it's not up to us, but it doesn't really change our sort of perspective on the risk. It would be much worse if the sidechain, you know, sort of went down. Then we wouldn't know what to do, really, right?
Got it. Thanks. And also, we should never, I guess, we should never have expectations, right? That transactions are going to be, you know, in the cents or contis.
No, because rollups right now, I think it's kind of like sharding, you know, it's a horizontal scaling, not vertical, right? So, you know, I kind of feel that we might expect to have a lot of different rollups, and this is how they're gonna scale, right? Just the traffic will be spread out between rollups. So people playing games, they might have their own rollup. People collecting NFTs, they might have their own rollup. And DeFi might actually end up on one of the rollups, and you won't see such a huge spikes in gas fees because, you know, there's like another NFT drop and whatnot, right?
All right, thank you, Bartek. Yeah, I think we'll maybe move on now. Got one more sort of presentation to get through. So yeah, Philip, I believe you're presenting and you want to share a screen as well, right?
Yeah, I can share my screen here.
David, you may have to stop. There we go. Cool. All right, so yeah, take it away.
Okay, it's been a while since I've used Zoom. Are you guys seeing my my presentation?
Yeah, present and we should be good.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thanks guys for letting me join this call and give a quick demo on some of the features that we've been working on. I'm Phil Bain. I'm the core unit facilitator for the Dux team, and before that, I was a foundation member. I was a developer for 2 years, working on a lot of the front end projects that we have. So we just recently split off and formed a team, which is the Dux core unit. And our mission here is enabling the best-in-class decentralized decision-making for the Maker protocol by providing a meaningful user experience for all governance participants. And so what that means is we're focused entirely on governance and governance UX, whereas before the foundation had a front-end team that was responsible for a lot of different applications. We're able to just focus on a single domain and devote all of our resources to creating the best governance experience possible. So next week, we'll be doing a Launchpad call to introduce the team and the team mission and vision. But for now, we're going to just stick to some of the features that we've been working on for the past few months since we started. So I just want to give a quick shout out to our team. We got a lot of talented people here, 4 developers, Tyler, Adam, Rafa, and myself. And we have a designer, Tiago, and a product manager, Dennis, who just joined us recently. And we're excited to have him. And so here's some of our contact info. Oops. And we want to hear from you. We've been doing some interviews with a few people, some delegates, to get a sense of how you guys are using the portal and what can be improved and where we can go from there. So please join our Discord, or please drop some ideas on our idea board, and I'll post these chat links in the chat later. But yeah, enough of that. Let's go jump into the demo. Okay, so assuming you can still see my screen, I just had to move to a new window.
No, we've only got a desktop now, I think. You may need to,
Oh, okay. I'm gonna
that
reshare because I must have done that wrong. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go.
Yep.
Okay, so the main feature, the biggest feature that we've kind of put together in the last few months or weeks, as it were, is the delegates feature. So some of you are definitely aware of this, but many of you might not be. So I was going to do a quick overview here. So when you first land on the delegates page, we have two types of delegates: the recognized delegates, and then down at the end you have shadow delegates. And due to the nature of the permissionless design, anyone can become a delegate if they want to. So we have this ability in the UI. If you click to your view account page, you can actually come through here, click the terms and conditions, and you can set up a, that's a little expensive with the gas, but you can set up a delegate contract if you want to be a shadow delegate. And to become a recognized delegate, however, we have people apply and they agree to the code of conduct that that GovAlpha has put forth. So the recognized delegates get a little bit more of a priority viewing in the UI, and they get a little bit more details that I'll show you in a moment. But so you can see here we have the list of delegates, and one thing to note is we don't play favorites. So anytime you visit the page, if I refresh right now, the sorting order gets randomized. So that way, you know, there's not always the same person at the top who perhaps gets all the delegates because people are too lazy to go to the next one, I guess. So when you look at these cards, we've been trying to display a lot of important information for the user. So you can see how much MKR was delegated to this particular delegate, how much is delegated by you, and the participation score and the communication score. These scores are provided by GovAlpha, and we pull in their data into the UI and present that on the card here. But another really nice feature of the card is you can see what executive they're currently supporting. So you can kind of go through and check, make sure that you know, all the delegates are doing their duty and they're up to date on the latest executives. And that's for the same thing for all the delegates. So even the shadow delegates, you can see how much MKR is delegated to them, what they're supporting, and so on. So we can dive into the profile page of the delegate here a little bit. So the delegates all are able to kind of provide this little bio, credentials. This is what the benefit of being a recognized delegate. You can provide some external links here. And then again, we have these stats down at the bottom to kind of quickly give an overview of the information about this delegate. And then along the top, we have some tabs to give you some extra details. And one of the most exciting ones is this voting history page. So this is brand new. We just pushed this up to our release on Tuesday. And I'm really excited about this feature. It gives the entire voting history for any given delegate. So you can see the poll that they voted on. You can see the option that they voted for. And you can also get this quick view of how the votes went. So, you know, find one that's got a little bit more no votes here. So 91% going yes, 9% going for no, and so on. So this is like a really good way just to look at a delegate and make sure that, you know, see what they're voting on and see if this is somebody that you would be interested in delegating to. And you can make those decisions based on looking at this data. And of course, each poll has a discussion link you can click over to and, you know, join the conversation about this particular poll. And one other thing about the delegate contracts, they expire after a year. So we have the expiration date here, just so people are aware of what that looks like when this delegate contract was created and when it will expire. So yeah, once you take a look at some of these polls, you can kind of dig into them. You click on the poll and it brings you to the polling detail page. This page has been around for a while, the polling detail page, but we have a really nice visualization that we've added to the vote breakdown. So you have the traditional vote breakdown, yes, no, abstain. And we also added a couple new features. So this is this table is the voting by address table. And you can see exactly who's voting on a given poll, what they're voting on, the MKR amount that they're voting with, and the percentage of their voting power, which is a percentage of the total votes for this. So, you know, the delegates have their names mapped to this column here, but also people who aren't delegates are listed here as well. And then the same data is kind of presented in this packed circle chart, which I really love because it gives you an idea of the size of everybody's votes and how people are voting and the direction that people are taking. So I'll find a more controversial one that is a little bit more exciting to look at momentarily. But one thing to note about this breakdown, so in a future enhancement, we are looking to kind of give a little bit more nuanced detail as to where this maker weight comes from. So with polling, you may be aware that it's a pretty complicated process to pull in all the different weights. If you have a vote proxy and a hot wallet and a cold wallet, and you've got MKR locked into Chief and MKR that's in your wallet, we have to pull from all these various different places to calculate your voting weight. And that can be a little tricky. So if we could provide like a breakdown for this, maybe some external links to Etherscan or whatnot, would provide a lot more context for users. So again, the features that we're looking for are things that are going to help people make informed decisions. They can look at this stuff and do verification for themselves about things like maker weight and where votes are going. So the idea is, you know, anyone can be an auditor in a sense. So when you look at these voting addresses, you can also click on these profiles, and this takes you back to the profile page. So now every address has a profile page. We just fetch the data for that address. So just like the delegates profile page that we looked at, this will give you the polling history, or the polling vote history, I should say. And if it loads, there we go. And so you can see this is just a regular address, a voter, and you can look at all the polling that they've been involved in as well. So you can plug your own address in there if you want to see your own vote history and look at all this data side by side. So if I drill into this one, it looks like there's a little bit more interesting vote breakdown to take a look at. So yeah, this is taking a look at the packed circle chart again. You get a sense of like who's voting no, who's voting yes. You know, we have our three biggest delegates and then some shadow delegates. So it kind of gives you some context as to the poll and, you know, who's voting for it, who's voting against it. And so it allows people to kind of dig in a little bit and make some better decisions with that data. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? So yeah, those are the features that we pushed up to the release. There's a lot more sort of little features. We've been doing a lot of optimizations. One sort of fun feature that maybe you guys have seen already, we have a dark mode implemented now. So this is so people can vote late at night from your bed or whatever. And we have some filters. The filters for the polls weren't working quite that well, so we added some improvements to the filters here, little things like that. So yeah, I want to also show just a couple of quick previews of some features that we're working on in the future that are not released yet, but I think will kind of go in line with helping people make informed decisions. So on a delegate profile page, we're going to add this voting weight over time. So this would be a graph that shows how much MKR was delegated to this person over a period of time. So again, you can kind of look at, you know, whether more people are delegating or less people are delegating and see the pattern there and kind of make a decision if you want to delegate your MKR to this person or not based on these trends. So this one is in the works. And another really exciting feature that I'm super excited about, I did not get the green light to show this feature from our designer, so forgive me, Tiago, but this is a poll comparison compatibility page. So basically, we will compare two addresses, so we could show the user their compatibility with any other delegate by comparing everybody's vote history. So in this example, we see that, we voted the same on this poll, but here we differed. And so by taking that data, comparing two different vote histories, we can create like a compatibility score that we could potentially add maybe to this page here, so that people can look who's the delegate that most represents my similar interests. So yeah, those are the kind of features that we're interested in digging into. We want to figure out ways to allow people to verify the data that's displayed, and allow people to make really informed decisions about how they vote or who they delegate to, and things like that. So I believe that's it for what I was going to show. So we can do a little QA if there's time for that. I'm willing to take some questions
for sure.
if anyone has any. And I can't really see the chat because I'm not. Oh, there we go. I found it. Okay. Yeah, feel free to shout out some questions if anyone has any.
Are there any difficulties in visualizing like ranked choice polling at all that you've come across?
Yeah, so that's a good good question. And let me see if I can find a ranked choice poll. So we did basically what we've done for that is just show the option that they voted for and the winning option. Yeah, so we had to kind of like do a little manual workaround to get the ranked choice ones to work with the voting history page. There's probably some more research we could do, but we wanted to go for the quick win of the plurality polls. But yeah, right now we would just, I don't see any in this person's history, but we would just show the winning option and then the option that they voted for in this page here. Okay, so jumping in, I see Max's iPhone. What percent of MKR is delegated? What percent of MKR is voting? Is that a question? What percent of MKR is delegated? That's a good question.
We like totals, not sure.
Right. Do we have that in our system? Yeah, total delegated. It's in our system stats here. So I don't know the percentage of the total extant MKR, but in this case, we have 73,000 over 7 recognized delegates and 6 shadow delegates.
One thing I'd maybe like to see on there as well is like the number of addresses delegating. If that makes sense as well, right?
Yeah.
So you can see sort of how many sort of larger and smaller people are using the system.
That's actually another feature that is in kind of progress right now. Something that, similar to that packed circle chart, you could look at a delegate and get a sense of like all the people delegating to this delegate and how much MKR they're delegating to this delegate as well. So yeah, we have some of that in the works as well.
I know Bourbon asked and Denise already answered, but I figured I'd ask for the call. And I'm also curious just on more details, but has the team been thinking about any sort of notification service that can be used to help voters with their experience? Yeah,
that's a really good question. So we have had opened up some talks with Ethereum push notification service. So if you're familiar with what they do, right, there's a couple different ways of doing it, but right now they're working on an integration for us that we might, we've got some demos from them the other day. So that's one potential way. That would be like when there's a new poll created, a new executive created, or an executive is about to end, or sorry, poll is about to end. These are some of the events that we've talked with them about recording. So it's kind of a third-party thing. You have to download a plugin for your browser. They have an API too, but that would require a little bit more work on our side. So we're looking into getting this very basic EPNS integration done soon. If it looks good and we approve of it, we'll push it out and share it.
I'm sorry to go with another question in a row, but I'm curious if any more thought has been given to the comment feature. So I know it came out for executive votes, and it's kind of like sparingly used, but I'm curious if we can get it on governance polls and kind of where we're at with that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question that's come up a lot in the interviews that we've done with some of our with the delegates and other holders. Communication in general seems to be like something that's closely tied to this, and it's hard to integrate, with. We don't have any specific plans for integrating the comments into the polls, like you said right now, but it's definitely something that we could talk about, put in our roadmap. Currently we have Dennis, our product manager. He's working really hard on developing our roadmap and helping us put together a backlog. So yeah, like I said, for people who have feature ideas, come to our Discord or our Frill page and feel free to contribute those. But yeah, right now, no plans for that. But if it's something that people want to see, we would look into it.
All right, I have one question. So what about governance effectiveness and things like wallet importance or something like that to governance? Do you guys have any idea of building metrics that can track effectiveness of governance or wallets within it?
That is a really good question. It's come up in our brainstorming. Again, we don't have any like concrete implementation for that, but we do have these participation metrics. I mean, that's not exactly governance effectiveness, but it's kind of delegate effectiveness, and these come from GovAlpha. But yeah, we've talked a lot about like how your vote impacts the future and how we can get those statistics. So for example, one of the things that we're going to add soon, we've been working with Token Flow, is this on-chain effects feature that shows you the effect of an executive vote and how that would affect the protocol. And so, yeah, finding ways to measure the impact of that over a period of time would be really awesome, and it's something that we totally want to do. We haven't like had a lot of like real technical research into it, but it's definitely on our priority list. But impact, that's one of the things that me personally, I think is one of the best ways to kind of like drum up enthusiasm, is kind of like showing where your vote goes and what your vote did, and make you feel like, when you're voting, you're having an impact. So any way we can display that and measure that for the user, I think is really powerful. So definitely expect something along those lines in the next, I'll say in the next year or so. Can't give you a timeline.
All right. Any other questions for Phil?
Cool. Thank you guys. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, very much appreciate the walkthrough, and yeah, portal's looking better and better every day, so that's great. All right, we're about 1:15, so we'll think about wrapping up. If anyone has any sort of last minute sort of comments or yeah, questions they want to just get answers to, feel free. Any shout outs for upcoming meetings any of the core units want to do?
There's a core unit launch pod session coming up. I believe it's with the Ducks team, right?
Yep. Yeah. That's next Wednesday. We will have that launch pod call. So we'll do more of a deep dive into the team at that time, and our mission, vision, and strategy, and yeah, introduce all that stuff.
I believe the Ducks core unit is also up for voting now, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yep, we do. We have our poll up there.
Yeah, so yeah, if you haven't already, consider voting there. I see most of you have, but yeah. Cool.
I just
All right.
Hold on. One more note before you end long. Yeah, because it occurred to me that there might be people in this meeting that were not here last week, and so you just sat through a totally different formatted GNR call. And so just a quick note on that, we are moving away from doing general team updates on this call. So transparency is hella important, but you know, this is not the format for it. So teams are no longer going to be doing those here. You know, we recommend teams post those as written updates on the forum, both for reference, for, you know, complete information, and you know, it's the easiest format to do it in. These calls are now going to be way more engagement and discussion focused. And so, yeah, that's the note.
I just posted the calls that SES is going to be having, which are not few. I don't know if the Summers team can pick those up so that they are a little bit more chilled, but yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Juan. Artem and I will get on it.
Yeah, seeing a few people mention Lisbon as well, but there's probably going to be a few times to bring that up in the future. So we'll leave that for this week, I think. All right, I think we'll wrap it up there. So yeah, thank you very much for our groups and the updates they gave. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming. We'll talk to you all next week, if not before. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.